It's great to see you all once again after Tuesday's meeting. So welcome once again to meeting number 13. This is the House of Commons Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure, and Communities, and once again, I welcome all of you. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of January 25th, 2021. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. So you are aware, the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this particular meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. For members participating in person, proceed as you usually would when the whole committee is meeting in person in a committee room. Keep in mind the directives from the Board of Internal Economy regarding masking and health protocols. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the proceedings and the verification officer. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed to the chair. When you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. With regard to a speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do the best we can to maintain the order of speaking for all members, whether they be participating virtually or in person. We do have a new icon on the bottom of the screen for hands raised. As I can only see so many per screen, please bear with me to go through the screens and see if there's a raised hand. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee is meeting today to continue its study on the impact of COVID-19 on the aviation sector. Before I introduce the witnesses, many of you have received some attachments by the clerk today with respect to study budgets. They were all distributed to each and every one of you. And I would like to request consent from the members to accept the study budgets, as well as not only accept them, but to adopt those budgets as they have been presented to you. Do I have consent from the members of the committee? If I can see your hands raised, it's the best I can do right now. Okay, so I do have consent, Mr. Clerk. So those study budgets are accepted and adopted by members of the committee. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the witnesses that we have before us today. We have from Aerospace Industries Association of Canada, Mr. Mike Mueller, Senior Vice President. From the Air Canada Pilots Association, we have Robert Giguère, Chief Executive Officer. From Atlantic Canada Airports Association, we have Derek Stanford, President, as well as Monet Pacher, Executive Director. From the Canadian Air Traffic Controllers Association, we have Doug Best, President, Chief Executive Officer. From the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers in Canada, we have Derek Ferguson, Representative Grand Lodge. And we have the Vancouver Airport Authority with us, Mr. Jerry Bruno. I believe it's Jerry, not Gary, because I do know Gary Bruno, by the way. So I'll go with Jerry, Executive Director and Executive Advisor to the President and Chief Executive Officer, Future Borders Coalition. With that, we will start with our witnesses, and I'll start with Mr. Mueller, the Senior Vice President of Aerospace Industries Association of Canada. Mr. Mueller, welcome. I'll give you the floor for 5 minutes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Aerospace Industries Association of Canada. As most of you will know, our members represent over 95% of aerospace activity in Canada, covering the civil, defense, and space sectors. Aerospace has been a driving contributor to Canadian prosperity for decades, providing nearly 235,000 jobs and over 28 billion annually to our nation's economy. This hasn't happened by accident. 80 years ago, our political and industrial leaders made strategic decisions. They recognized the potential of this great industry to shrink our vast geography, facilitate global trade and commerce, help secure our borders, and raise our quality of life. These political leaders were keenly aware that smart policy decisions and key investments would build Canada into a global aerospace leader. They knew the investments we made as a country would yield significant dividends, and their vision was correct. Canada became the 5th largest aerospace industry on the planet and a true source of pride. But in recent years, that vision, investment, and support has been slipping. and so has Canada's global positioning. The impacts of COVID-19 have meant further challenges, and we've fallen even further behind. The industry is reporting losses in revenue of over 40%. 95% of companies are reporting various levels of shutdown, and over 50% have laid off employees. Support is needed, and it is needed immediately. While the government's emergency measures have been appreciated and helpful, they're just not enough. Not when aviation and aerospace are facing unprecedented challenges, and not when other leading aerospace countries, our competitors, began taking action early on. For example, France invested 26 billion, the US invested 80 billion, Hong Kong 52 billion, Germany 98, and on and on. These countries, our competitors, have positioned their sectors for the future. Canada needs to do the same because the future is bleak for aerospace if its customers, the airlines, can't buy its products and services. The effects of COVID-19 have cascaded throughout the supply chain and throughout the country. Our members are located in every region, and no one has been immune, regardless of the size. Data from leading global aerospace and defense experts warn of the consequences if no action is taken or no long-term strategy developed. The need to protect our highly skilled, well-paying jobs is now. This industry's competitive advantage has been our skilled workforce. In the context of COVID-19, this is our strength and our challenge. We need government investment in aerospace so we can be part of the economic recovery, and post-recovery, we can once again be global leaders. But we can't do it alone. We need a partner in the government, and indeed all parties in the House of Commons. Finally, I want to touch on innovation, a hallmark of this industry. Great strides are already being taken by aerospace companies to ensure a greener, more sustainable future. We're ready to help with elements of the government's green agenda. The industry is committed to us, and we're fully committed to working in partnership with you on a national aerospace strategy that takes into account civil, defense, and space. This is critical. As I said, every one of our competitor countries has a strategy. We are also seeking support from government to partner with us to help us transition to new technologies and products, a transition that will keep people employed and ensure we remain a skilled workforce. With over 80% of what we produce exported, there are opportunities to build more efficiency and transparency into export market opportunities. There is also an opportunity for the government to support our industry by accelerating planned spends on the defense and space side. I'll conclude today by saying there are tremendous opportunities. Let's ensure that Canadians can continue to take pride in our Canadian aerospace industry, to continue Canada's leadership in R&D and in training, and to protect our skilled workers and good-paying jobs from coast to coast to coast, all while putting aviation and aerospace on a path to a greener future. We can't be naive. Other countries are, as we speak, actively soliciting Canadian firms to shut down and move to their jurisdictions. Aerospace exists in a fierce, globally competitive marketplace. Once these jobs leave, they don't come back. It's no accident that a country of just 35 million has such a thriving aerospace sector. So on behalf of our industry, we urge all of you to continue the tradition, stand by this industry, grow it for the future, protect its legacy and its jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Well done. We'll now move on to the Air Canada Pilots Association. Mr. Giguere, Chief Executive Officer, 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the committee for inviting me here today. I've been a pilot, and in the later half of my career worked as a senior and executive roles in the airline industry. I've seen 9/11 and SARS, which were terrible. The current challenge far exceeds anything we've ever seen before. Our association today represents 3,800 active pilots. Before COVID hit, we had 4,500 active pilots, and we were in the process of hiring another 900. Through a combination of canceled hiring, furloughs, early retirements, leaves of absence, surplus pilots, over 1,800 positions are gone for a net reduction of 35%. Our remaining pilots are currently at about 65% of their normal salary as part of a mitigation agreement to limit reductions. Since March 2020, passenger traffic has been down to around the 10% range of pre-pandemic levels. That has dropped even further in the past couple of weeks. We would urge the government to take a thoughtful approach on any further restrictions so they don't have any unintended consequences. While our pilots can tell you that most of the flights they operate have very few passengers, the cargo holds are full. Last week, on an extremely limited flight schedule, our pilots operated flights that carried millions of kilos of essential goods into and across Canada. If you turn off the tap on aviation, you don't want to unintentionally turn off the supply chain of vital goods to Canadians, including mail, personal protective equipment, pharmaceuticals, and other goods. While public health measures may be required to fight the pandemic, further restrictions without direct government financial aid is sure to take an already precarious airline industry and further devastate it. As a reminder, every single day this quarter, Air Canada is estimated to be burning through $15 million, and that's after the dramatic capacity reductions and layoffs of more than 20,000 employees. The airline is smaller today than it was when I started my career as a pilot in the 70s. Other countries are now in their second and third round of direct financial support for their airlines. We're the only G7 country that has not received specific industry aid. While we appreciate that the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, so many jobs have been lost, and some of those losses may be never recovered. If we don't receive assistance soon, Canada may not have an airline industry by the time the recovery comes. The routes that have been canceled may never return, airlines may not be able to recover costs, and the cargo you need to get to where it needs to go may not go. Our industry in some way touches virtually every Canadian and every sector of this economy. While the COVID crisis has hit many industries, airlines are unique in two ways. First, unlike businesses with traditional offices or warehouses, airlines' most significant investment is in aircraft. Airline fleets are either owned, financed, or leased. Airlines have slashed operations to manage these massive costs. Hundreds of planes are parked in the desert, many permanently. Some of the new aircraft are being sold outright or sold and leased back so airlines can generate liquidity to provide cash as they burn through their reserves. Some might think, great, if airlines sell assets to create cash, they don't need any help. Selling aircraft one by one is like ripping apart your house, board by board, to keep the fires burning to heat it. Eventually, the asset is gone, and you have nothing left but a pile of ash and nowhere to live. Airlines cannot just give up their entire fleet and wait for the economy to improve. Government relief for aircraft rent or financing would assist airlines with an expense that is unique to them. Secondly, our highly trained workers have skills that are critical, not just to the airline industry, but to the functioning of our economy. Pilots, mechanics, and air traffic controllers have essential skills developed through significant investments of money and time. Before a first commercial pilot job, he will have invested years and well over $100,000 to become qualified. Furloughed and inactive pilots have no way to maintain their skills. We can't just bring them back safely if those skills atrophy. As this committee heard in 2019, a wave of retirements is anticipated over the next 5 to 10 years. In today's context, young people will not commit to a career that requires upwards of $100,000 and years of training to get qualified with little or no job prospects. A skilled worker retention program to support inactive pilots would help ensure we keep these highly skilled workers when we need them for recovery. In conclusion, Canada's airlines represent a critical infrastructure, like our electrical grid or our highway network. We're a large country and a widely dispersed population and a trading nation. We rely on airlines to carry goods, services, and people within and outside of Canada. Canada cannot survive and thrive in the years ahead without a robust aviation sector. I'll wrap up my remarks here. I look forward to answering your questions, any questions the honorable members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giguère. Well done. We'll now move on to the Atlantic Canada Airports Association. We have Mr. Stanford and Ms. Pasher. Now, Ms. Pasher, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are.
Perfect. Okay, great. So you both have the floor for 5 minutes.
Great, thanks. I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Derek. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the invitation to speak with you today. There are 12 airports in Atlantic Canada that are part of our association. It is all of the airports in the region with commercial traffic, or should I now say the ones that used to have passenger traffic prior to the pandemic, because sadly that is the situation we are in. 7 airports in our region have seen their Air Canada service be indefinitely suspended. Communities like Gander, Newfoundland, Goose Bay, and Wabush in Labrador, Bathurst, St. John, and the capital city of Fredericton in New Brunswick, Sydney and Nova Scotia. Pre-pandemic, these were well-managed, profitable, and fiscally responsible small airports They have now gone through 10 months of using their cash reserves accumulated over 2 decades, and it's normally earmarked for safety infrastructure projects. These airports have cut staff, they've cut expenses, but they can only cut so far, as our airport runways must stay open for medevac and essential community services. The impact of COVID has been great. Seeing air service that has been in place since 1942 severed, cutting off entire communities and regions. For Gander in Newfoundland, Air Canada has served that market since it was TransCanada Airlines, before Newfoundland was even part of Canada. Or in Sydney's case, it is cutting their island economy off from the rest of the country. They are 5 hours from the next nearest airport in Halifax. Think about that for a minute. This is Nova Scotia's second largest city, entirely without air access. It's an economy that relies on tourism, mobile workers moving to the oil fields, and immigration. We know government does not want people to travel right now. We are here to serve essential movement of people and goods, but our infrastructure expenses do not scale, and our revenue model is entirely based on passengers. This government has recognized the need for support for the air sector in the fiscal economic statement, and we look forward to those programs rolling out. The support is urgently needed. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Derek.
With COVID cases on the rise in the rest of Canada, new variants and vaccines just beginning to roll out, the recovery line for the restart of travel is getting further and further out of reach, while our financial losses grow. Atlantic Canada's airports lost over 6 million passengers in 2020 and $140 million in revenue. Even after all of the cost cutting, there was a net loss of over $80 million. The unemployment rate in the Atlantic aviation sector is now over 50%. These were well-paying and secure jobs. 2021 is not looking much better. We are down from over 140 routes to just 29, with only 9 of those connecting us to the rest of Canada. Our airports have asked for rent relief until this sector recovers. In a good year, Canada's airports have paid $415 million to the federal government in rent. Now our airports need government support as revenue is completely dried up. What was announced was a good first step, but it does not go far enough to help Canada's medium-sized and large airports recover. Airports like Halifax Stanfield and St. John's will only receive rent relief for 1 year, 1 more year. To put this into perspective, in St. John's case, with projected revenues down substantially again in 2021, the airport is forecasting a savings of approximately $450,000 from federal rent relief. By comparison, their borrowing to get through the pandemic is currently anticipated to peak at $30 million. Much more needs to be done. Our airports have also asked for operational support. We look forward to the details and the rollout of the $206 million in the RATI program. This will be required to help stabilize the losses for our regional airport in Atlantic Canada.
One minute, Mr. Stanford. 1 minute.
Oh, okay, sorry. We've also asked for infrastructure support through the Capital Assistance Program. In order to recover, our sector needs a nationally consistent, globally aligned approach to testing for the restart of travel. We need this plan right now. Lastly, but most of significant importance for our region is the need for financial support for our national air carriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stanford. To both you as well as Ms. Pasher, well done. We're now going to move on to the Canadian Air Traffic Controllers Association. Mr. Best, for 5 minutes, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chair and all honorable members, on behalf of the Canadian Air Traffic Control Association, I truly appreciate the opportunity to appear before your committee. CATCA is a uniform local trade union representing all air traffic controllers in Canada and conduct collective bargaining with Transport Canada, Serco, and NAV Canada on behalf of more than 1,800 members. Aviation safety and ensuring responsible working conditions for our members is our #1 mission. Before the pandemic hit, our members were responsible for the safety of 3 million flights per year. Air traffic controllers were short-staffed by 13%. NAV Canada's overtime bill was $100 million. We had 200 trainees in our system, and Transport Canada had ordered NAV Canada to overhaul its fatigue management system as the minister had recognized safety was being compromised. Since the pandemic hit, we are working 50% less airplanes, and by June 2021, we could be more than 20% short-staffed, and NAV Canada has terminated almost every trainee that was in our system. We understand that NAV Canada has seen a precipitous drop in their revenue due to the pandemic and needs to find efficiencies. But this cannot come at the cost of safety for air transportation. While NAV Canada is technically a private entity, it is in a unique position in that they are the only civil air navigation service provider in Canada. Their monopoly status allows them to raise fees, utilize government programs, and of course, petition the government for additional financial support to ultimately promote a sector recovery. As you will have seen in the media, our union has raised grave concerns over NAV Canada issuing layoff notices to more than 100 air traffic controllers. This includes level of service review of air traffic control towers at 7 cities, as well as 4 area control centers. Gander Area Control Center has been the hardest hit. Services provided in Gander are critical to Canada's historic role in providing air traffic control services to half of the North Atlantic Ocean airspace, which handles the busiest international oceanic airspace in the world, connecting Europe and North America. The potential layoffs in Gander will affect the North Atlantic, as 40% of the more than 60 air traffic controllers that work the airspace have been served layoff notices. During the level of service reviews for the 7 affected towers, NAV Canada committed to a fair and transparent process and says the outcome would consider all stakeholders' concerns, review each situation on its own merits, and ultimately produce a report in the spring of this year should they wish to materially modify service at any of our towers. We've been further assured that there was no predetermined outcome as this process ran its course. Actions would only be taken if warranted, but not before the full process was concluded, including concurrence from the Minister of Transport on any proposed changes. Unfortunately, all of the tower sites undergoing a review of air traffic control service have already issued letters to its employees that clearly state that they intend to close the respective air traffic control tower. It is not acceptable for NAV Canada to issue terms of reference on each engagement and yet have a different behind-the-scenes strategy when not facing hundreds of concerned stakeholders across the country, including what should be their most valuable source, their employees. These letters confirm our early concerns that the outcome of these reviews was already decided before they began. Our association is calling on Transport Canada to discontinue the service review due to NAV Canada's failure to act reasonably and in good faith, and are calling on the Minister of Transport to clarify their obligations under the Civil Air Navigation Services Commercialization Act and what it means when a party does not act reasonably and in good faith. It is the opinion of CATCA that NAV Canada is moving with uncontrolled haste and has not been genuine or forthcoming with their motives. Every one of us understands that safety is being impacted. In addition, NAV Canada management received bonuses in December worth approximately $7 million, and unionized members got layoff notices.
1 minute, Mr. Best.
Thank you. We are calling on this committee to ask the government to provide NAV Canada with whatever financial support is needed in the form of a grant to help them weather this temporary downturn so they no longer need to consider reducing core services in not only control towers and area control centers, but to the other necessary, highly skilled unionized professionals that support the air navigation system, which serves so many communities across Canada and connect Canada to the world. Losing the air traffic control services in these key regions would be devastating. We've lost faith in the current process and ask that this committee and the Minister of Transport work collaboratively with us to reset a very unfortunate situation and reassure the traveling public that their safety will not be compromised. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Best, well done. We're now going to move on to the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers in Canada. Mr. Ferguson, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to present the views of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers to the committee. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers is a leading union in the aerospace sector and air transportation industry. The IMAW represents over 55,000 members across Canada, of which 22,000 work in the aviation, aerospace and air transportation sector. As the hardest hit sector, air transportation is also a sector that is expected to experience a slow recovery as well as fundamental change. Direct funding is necessary. It has been a full year since COVID-19 became a reality in Canada, yet to date there has not been any targeted support for this industry. With a full recovery not expected until 2025, it is unrealistic to expect that aviation and air transportation will survive on raising funds independently. Without a planned sector-specific strategy, several industries face decimation. The Canadian government was quick in responding to the economic crisis triggered by the pandemic and made available the CEWS, although most employers did not top up the 25% of workers' wages and would only use the subsidy for active employees. This went against the original intent of the program, which was to reduce layoffs and help employers maintain workers on the payroll. The pandemic has had a broad effect on many industries, not just the airlines. Operation of airports, pre-boarding screening services, aerospace, aircraft and component manufacturing are just some of the industries that have been impacted by the decline in air transportation. For workers, the decline in the industry has translated into massive layoffs. In the air transportation sector alone, 10,000 of our members are currently laid off. Laid off workers lose more than just their jobs. They lose their health benefits, pension contributions cease. Many of these laid off workers will not be able to find comparable jobs in the current labour market. Many more will face the grim economic reality and rely on an overburdened, ill-equipped public services system for assistance. Passenger capacity is down more than 90% and 28 domestic stations are closed. Station closures of regional airports not only impact workers who depend on those jobs, but entire communities who are now disconnected from the larger urban centres. We urge the federal government to recognise the true impact of the pandemic by acknowledging that this is a sector-specific issue which requires an urgent sector-specific response. And recommendations to facilitate policy development, the IAM recommends establishment of a sector council working group consisting of government, industry and union representation. Support for smaller air carriers and fostering regional air networks is essential. A comprehensive and sound policy will ensure a long-term viability of Canadian air carriers, large and regional. The IAM has been advocating for a national labour strategy in both aerospace and air transportation. Now is the time to enhance education and training of the next generation of workers. We also recommend a repatriation plan that secures jobs of the Canadian aircraft maintenance and technical operations workers. The IAM represents members in aircraft technical operations classifications across the country, and their main concern is that the work that should have been done by our members is now being done out of country. 79 aircraft have been grounded permanently and 200 aircraft have been grounded outside the country. This is work our members can and should be doing here in Canada. The IAM is committed to working with all relevant stakeholders, and ultimately we call for the development of a sector-specific action plan with goals that will stimulate and rebuild the industry. However, the health and safety of the travelling public and our members is at the forefront of any plan and strategy. Clear boundaries must be set on how public money is used and prevent paying out bonuses, share buybacks, and any other scheme that does not directly benefit the industry.
1 minute, Mr. Ferguson.
Any support must be worker-centric. If there are no workers left in this industry when the pandemic eases, then there will be no industry. Missing this opportunity will not be only disastrous in the short term, but the failed will have far-reaching, devastating consequences. In conclusion, we should all be in agreement Canada's air transportation is at a critical juncture. The lack of action on behalf of the government on this issue cannot continue. Missing this opportunity will not only be disastrous in the short term, but the failure to act will have far-reaching, devastating consequences. Around the world, governments are stepping up to support their airlines. Canada is the exception. Canada needs to directly support its air transportation and aerospace sector. On behalf of the IM, I thank you for the invitation to participate and for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Well done. We're now going to move on to the Vancouver Airport Authority. Mr. Bruno, I have to ask you, is it Jerry or Gary?
It is Jerry. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, it's great to see you again. Mr. Bruno, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and thank you for the invitation to speak to you today. I am Jerry Bruno, Executive Advisor to the President and CEO of the Vancouver Airport Authority, Tamara Bruman. The Vancouver Airport Authority is a private non-share capital corporation that operates the Vancouver Airport, or as we are more commonly known, YVR. Since our time together is limited, I will jump right in. The impacts to our industry run deep. You received detailed accounts back in December from our colleagues at the Canadian Airports Council, the National Airline Council of Canada, and you also heard distressing stories from my industry colleagues here today. And YVR is no exception. Our passenger numbers dropped 88% last year, and our year-over-year revenues declined 63%. And 2021 is looking to be even more severe. We took drastic measures to reduce expenses, consolidating our operations, eliminating all but essential spending on capital projects, and had to secure an additional $600 million loan to allow us to operate with limited revenue for the next couple of years. We're basically operating on borrowed money. We recognize that we need to fight this pandemic together. As was the case at airports across the country, YVR proactively introduced new measures in our terminals to ensure a safe and healthy environment for passengers and employees. We also partnered with government and invested in a testing pilot to gather scientific data that will help inform policy decisions. Our trial with UBC, Providence Health, and WestJet explores the use of pre-departure rapid antigen testing, focusing on cutting off risk at the point of origin. We turned our empty parking lots to one of the largest drive-through COVID-19 testing sites in British Columbia. And we continue to offer our infrastructure, technology, and resources to assist the vaccine distribution of our nation. But our industry continues to be in peril. Excuse me. And our airports need assistance today. The reality is 2021 is shaping up to be even harder for industry than 2020. Recovery is expected to take many years, and experts anticipate that we will not reach mass global vaccination for some time. The aviation industry simply cannot afford to rely on vaccines alone, the solution to this health emergency for the foreseeable future. Excuse me. You have heard from our industry on the financial assistance we desperately need. We are also extremely concerned about the competitiveness of our transportation system vis-a-vis the US, whose airlines and airports have received tens of billions of dollars in government support. The competitive gap we were experiencing in the past is going to be even greater as we emerge from this pandemic. But today I want to focus on the measures we need for a safe and orderly return of travel once the immediate public health concerns have been dealt with. We require careful planning and coordination by governments and industry today to ensure we are well prepared for the resumption of travel. We need a comprehensive, layered testing framework in place, a national approach and standard that ensures safety in air travel and helps rebuild trust and confidence in our sector. Even with the vaccines in place, travelers will still require testing. There's a lot that are still unknown about the vaccine. And as our borders reopen, governments will need to be confident in the accuracy of passengers' health status, including testing results and vaccination records. This will require government investment in technology that will enable a touchless journey, biometric identity confirmation, collection of verifiable health records, and strong privacy protection.
1 minute, Mr. Bruno.
Thank you. But not all support measures require significant dollar investment. When the time comes to reopen travel, countries around the world competing for tourism. How can we compete? One way is by expanding the electronic travel authorization to additional countries that will stimulate international passenger traffic to and through Canada. Also, the movement of goods will be equally important to Canada's economic recovery and competitiveness. Introducing real free trade zones will contribute to Canada's economic recovery by repatriating and attracting manufacturing, particularly for industries like pharmaceuticals, PPE, and critical emergency supplies. Removing restrictions on value-added manufacturing, it is known as is that in the US and other countries, could stimulate domestic production and create up to 44,000 middle-class jobs across Canada. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Great job. We're now going to move on to our first round of questions. We have to the floor 6 minutes each for Ms. Cusi of the CPC, followed by Ms. Jasek of the Liberal Party, followed by Mr. Barcelona of the Bloc, and concluded by Mr. Bachrach of the NDP. Ms. Cusi, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses appearing here today. Mr. Mueller, it's very good to see you again. I would like to know the reasoning why, after such a strong strategy in 2018, a national strategy for the aerospace sector, that this government hasn't made it a priority to renew their commitment to do a strategy for the aerospace industry.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I assume that's in response to our Vision 2025 document, and members may be familiar with the Vision 2025 exercise that we undertook in 2018. And we were at that time concerned about the state of our industry vis-a-vis our international competitors. And we had the Honorable Jean Charest join with us. We did consultations across the country. We did identify several different areas of a potential strategy to work with the government on, dedicated to small businesses. How do we, the skilled labor portion of it, ensuring Transport Canada is a world-class leader, our space industry and our defense industry. And we went through that exercise. We had some very good discussions with government. But the one thing I can't, that we're struggling to understand is the hesitancy of joining with our industry in developing that strategy, especially in light of COVID-19, when we see other countries across our competitor countries, every single one of them have a strategy in place. They have sector-specific support in place. I think just listening to the other witnesses here, there's some common threads there that seem to make a lot of sense. So we're really looking forward to working with the government on some sort of a sector strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Ms. Pasher, would you say Atlantic Canadians are feeling isolated at this time with essentially no air service in and out of your region? Would that be a fair statement? Can you describe the isolation felt by Atlantic Canadians at this time, please?
Ms. Pasher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think isolation would describe it in some instances for our communities. I mean, when you have to take additional flights, spend additional nights, and add days to your travel to get to work when you're working in essential services right now, I think it's a very challenging situation. Or to see that your airport is completely shut down with no service and not knowing when it'll come back. I mean, Cape Breton Island's economy is based on tourism. It's ranked the #1 island in North America. There's no air service. So I think to see what's happened, you know, in the town of Gander, which is built on aviation, and to lose their connection to the mainland, I think these are really, really trying times, and we do feel isolated.
Ms. Cusi?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Pasher, do you feel Atlantic Canadians are wondering why the government isn't acting to help the airline sector so that Atlantic Canadians don't have to feel so isolated? Are they making the connection between the lack of a plan and the lack of support from this government for the airline sector and the isolation that they so rightly feel at this time?
Ms. Pasher?
Yeah, I mean, we heard the support being announced in November. That support was going to come, sector specific support, and here we are at the end of January, still waiting and still wondering what's going to be there for our region and for the sector across the country. And I think I think there's a lot of concern. I'm starting to wonder if we're on mute. I mean, we really have said what our sector needs to recover. And for our larger airports, it's rent relief until the sector recovers, not for one more year. And we really do need operational support for our essential transportation infrastructure right now. And our air carriers need funding. And we need our routes restored. So we've been very clear in what we require and have said time and time again that it's urgent. So yeah, I think this is, I think our residents are feeling it as well.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Pasher. Mr. Bruno, I was very fortunate to meet with Tamara Vrooman in December, and I was very impressed with her idea and the idea behind YVR of confidence through science, and which is an idea which I know is the core of YVR's path forward. So with that, I have two questions. The first one, can you comment on the government failing of not implementing rapid testing on arrival, pre-departure testing? And do you think this would have made a difference in terms of traffic flow, market share, et cetera, at YVR? And secondly, this government seems to have continued the narrative of travel shaming, which doesn't accurately portray the data of transmission location. And again, these ideas support the idea of your CEO, Tamara Vrooman, confidence through science. Can you comment on those two questions, please?
Well, sure. Certainly, we have been pushing for the idea of testing before departures probably for the last 9 months. And we've been disappointed that it has taken so long. I mean, measures were introduced just recently because of this new variant of the COVID virus, where now people coming in internationally have to be tested, and they have to get a PCR test, not a rapid test, before departure. Our view is that we need to test the test, and which is what we're doing at Vancouver today. This should have been done by government early on, so that we know what we're talking about and what we're dealing with. We always were of the view that, much like we do with security, it's layered security. So 2-layered test, one 72 hours before departure, one on departure at the airport. That would help screen those passengers that could have been carrying the virus. That's always been our position. That's why we did the test we're doing. So we're in a reactive mode rather than a proactive mode.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Mr. Bruno, can you bring your mic down just a bit? Just a tad, just over your mouth. Yeah, that's perfect. Good, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cusi.
Thank you,
great
Chair.
questions. I'm now going to move on to Ms. Jacek of the Liberal Party. Ms. Jacek, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chair. And first of all, I'd like to say to all the witnesses today that you've made your positions incredibly clear. You've communicated your anxiety, your frustration, particularly over the length of time that it's taking to get the assistance package that our government has committed to you. And one thing that certainly I've learned as a member of this committee is how complex the aviation sector is. Just seeing so many representatives here today, and also we had so many on Tuesday as well. And so I'm sure that what we really want to see is to make sure that the concerns of all parties are addressed in that assistance package. And you have made it absolutely clear the devastating effect that the pandemic has had on you. My first question is to Mr. Best. Mr. Best, you've talked about service level changes being proposed by NAV Canada. I was wondering what kind of a role Transport Canada has when service levels are proposed to be changed. Could you just sort of elaborate on how the process works?
Yes, I can. Mr. Chair, with regards to the level of service reviews that are happening in all the towers, that decision is ultimately with the Minister of Transport. He'll have the authority to either agree or not agree with the report that's given, if it even makes it to his desk. With regards to the service in the area control centers, that's a different situation. That's strictly regulated by NAV Canada. Of course, they do have to provide the service, and if they're unable to provide the service, then there would obviously the minister would have to interject as well. But for the most part, staffing in area control centers is strictly NAV Canada. It's under their purview.
Ms. Jessic?
Okay, so thank you. So I do understand that there is the potential, obviously, for the minister, the ministry to get involved in the assessment as well. In terms of the layoffs that have occurred for air traffic controllers, I presume that NAV Canada did use the emergency wage subsidy to a certain extent. Could you just sort of break down how many permanent layoffs have actually occurred?
Mr. Best?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, NAV Canada has been utilizing the wage subsidy. I believe the last I had heard, NAV Canada, it was losing approximately $1.3 million per day. Without that subsidy, it would be about $1.8 million per day. With regards to, actually, can you just repeat the second part of your question?
Well, I was interested in what proportion are permanent layoffs.
Sorry.
In other words, are there some furloughs where people might be recalled, where people are actually accessing their benefits? I'm just trying to get a picture of the number of full-time layoffs.
Mr. Best?
Mr. Chair, the permanent reduction at NAV Canada stands around 750 people. So far, we were about 5,200, now down to around 4,500. There are more on the block, as has been mentioned. But as far as permanent layoffs, it's a little bit different than some people who took early retirement incentives. I can also advise you that we did have 150 trainees. Our future was terminated on September 22nd. So there is nobody coming up behind us for us old dogs who are going to be retiring at some point in time.
So perhaps you could elaborate a little bit on those trainees. I understand it takes some 3 years or so to fulfill the requirements to be a qualified air traffic controller. So were some of these trainees just at the beginning of their training, or do we have some still in process who are perhaps closer to finishing? Or could you just again elaborate on the picture there?
Mr. Best?
Mr. Chair, with regards to the trainees, we do have several in the system. I'm going to guess a handful right now. They were kept around. They were very close to qualification. It does take upwards of somewhere between 2 and 3 years. In some cases, it is less, depending on where you work. But the schooling takes approximately a year, followed by your on-the-job training.
Ms. Jessic?
And now to Mr. Giguère, who I remember well when I was at the Ontario Legislature, and you were appointed Chief Operating Officer at Orange when Orange was going through a complete, renovation, I guess I should say. Mr. Giguère, in your experience now with the Air Canada Pilots Association, obviously safety is absolutely crucial. Have your pilots had any anxiety in terms of some of what Mr. Best has been saying around safety and service levels?
Mr. Giguère? Mr. Giguère? Looks like he may be frozen.
I take it you're asking specifically about air traffic. Yeah.
You're cutting in and out there, Mr. Giguère. Okay, so we've lost Mr. Giguère. He's frozen up. My apologies, Ms. Jasic. Maybe one of the members following you can actually ask that same question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the block. Mr. Barceló-Duval, the floor is yours for 6 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je vais commencer peut-être avec...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start with Mr. Miller. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I really enjoyed listening to what you had to say about the importance of having an aerospace strategy, in Quebec. This is one of our major sources of export. Aerospace industry is an industry with good salaries, and unfortunately the industry has been neglected by the government, not only during the pandemic, but before that as well, because the government had refused to grant some subsidies to aerospace in Montreal, for example. And I would like to know if you had an opportunity to discuss this with government and ask them why they refused that and why they do not bring in an aerospace strategy and why there's no assistance for the aerospace sector.
Thank you for the question, and we definitely appreciate the support of your colleague on our aerospace caucus. I would say that we have been asking for that sector-specific approach and sector-specific strategy, working in close collaboration with our colleagues also in Quebec. We understood before that that wasn't a priority of the government, and that was a policy option. We didn't agree with that, but we understood that that was a policy option. But what we can't understand now, even just hearing from all the other witnesses, we see the challenges being faced by COVID-19 on our industry, and we don't understand now why that isn't an option, especially when our competitor countries are also doubling down on these types of strategies. The one thing I will say is that, the jobs that we employ are good paying jobs. They're 25% higher wages than the average manufacturing jobs, which is absolutely critical. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks, are the competitive advantage that we have here in Canada and in Quebec is our skilled workforce. And without that support, I'm worried we're going to lose that competitive advantage. And we have a real opportunity to contribute to the economic recovery through a sector like this.
Mr. Barceló-Duval.
Donc, on vous a dit que le secteur de l'aérospace.
So you said that the aerospace sector enabled you to understand that it's not a priority for this government.
Mr. Mueller.
Well, we're looking for a sector-specific approach. We could understand the sector-agnostic approach that they took previous. We didn't agree with that, but we're definitely looking for support for the sector and support for that overall strategy. And I would agree with the other witnesses here. Now's the time to get on with that.
Mr. Barceló-Duval.
On parle présentement d'une aide au secteur aérien.
Now we're talking about assistance for the aerospace sector that's been promised for going way back from the government. We wonder if it'll ever come to fruition, but we also have heard about recovery where they're cutting back or canceling orders for planes, for example, in Mirabel with the 120s. What about assistance provided from the government? Should there be a requirement that we favor the purchase of planes manufactured here instead of those manufactured elsewhere, such as the 737 MAX that were frozen on the ground for a long time?
That's why we're asking for a sector-specific approach and a sector-specific strategy to work with industry, government working with industry to tackle some of those different issues that you had mentioned. Just with respect to that overall strategy, it's something that is needed, it's timely, and it has to happen now.
Merci pour...
Thank you for your answer. I would also have a question for Mr. Best. Earlier you mentioned, Mr. Best, that last year the management of NAV Canada decided to grant themselves generous bonuses of around $7 million. I'm trying to get an understanding. Maybe you can explain more to me, but it seems that at the moment they decided to cut back on services and cut employees and reduce security, that the management priority was more to give themselves gifts rather than to take care of those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it does appear that the NAV Canada management has bonused themselves and has decided to lay off. But the reality is, I think that question is much better answered by NAV Canada itself.
Mr. Barcelona-Bell.
J'aimerais aussi savoir.
I would also like to know, according to you, whether the reductions and cuts of services that have happened up to now endanger security in air traffic control services.
Sorry, the translation was very short. Can it be repeated, please?
Mr. Barcelona-Bell.
Oui,
Yes, I was asking you whether the current cutbacks are having an impact on safety in air traffic control, and if the cutbacks that are being planned will have an effect on security or safety.
Absolutely. You know, the safety of the general public is paramount to air traffic controllers. You know, NAV Canada's priorities are misplaced, not focused on safety or the economic stability of the air navigation industry. You know, and we're absolutely committed to protecting Canadian airspace and all those who use it.
Thank you, Mr. Best, and thank you, Mr. Barcelona-Bell. We're now going to move on to the NDP with Mr. Cannings. Mr. Cannings, welcome. I see you're taking over from Mr. Bachrach. And I do want to mention before I get to you as well that we have Ms. May with us. Ms. May, welcome. It's great to have you around the horseshoe here. And we are going to be allotting you some time in the third round. Mr. Biddle has been kind enough to give you his time, his 5 minutes. So
well,
with
thank
that,
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it very much.
no problem, Ms. May. And Mr. Cannings, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to start by just prefacing my questions and remarks with thanking all the witnesses here for coming. I hear your message around the situation of the industry. My riding has 3 regional airports that have all really been hit hard. I know if Mr. Bachrach were here, he would have the same message. I think he has 5 regional airports in his riding. I have Penticton, Castlegar, and Trail. Air Canada has completely pulled out of my riding. Used to have multiple flights per day. So it's been a huge issue for my riding, just in regards to people being able to move, as people have been mentioning, the cargo issues as well. And I'd also like to point out to the Atlantic airports people, the Sydney airport, which you mentioned, is named after my grandmother's cousin, J.A.D. McCurdy, very real family hero. So I have a personal stake in that airport as well, in that sense. But, you know, we're all concerned about the viability of the industry. And as I said, especially with regard to regional routes. In early December, I talked face-to-face with Minister Garneau about the sector-specific supports that were apparently being negotiated at the time. He told me that that was ongoing. And so I'd like to start by asking Mr. Ferguson about those negotiations, whether his union has been engaged by the government in those talks, and whether or not they have what he would be pushing for to shape those supports in regards to the workers that he represents.
Mr. Ferguson.
Well, just to start off there, we have had no response from former Minister Garneau. We've reached out on numerous occasions to speak on these issues, and as of yet, we've had no response. The IEM position is that the regional airports and the regional routes being reinstated must be part of any deal, any plan that comes to fruition. And this may even mean some of these smaller routes, etc. The government, it may be a point the government may have to think about having some sort of stake in it, some sort of nationalization of these routes, because these smaller communities, not just the members, but the communities themselves, they're the isolation, et cetera, and the strap for goods and services, it's something that it must be part of any plan.
Okay, thanks. And I might come back to you on that if I have time later, but I wanted to touch on the NAVCAN and air traffic control situation, especially with regards to Castlegar, which serves quite a large area. It would take someone 4 hours to drive to the next airport if they couldn't fly in and out of Castlegar. It's always had issues during the winter about reliability because of weather, and they've been working hard, spending a lot of money to fix those. And now they're very concerned because they're on the list of NAVCAN studies to see whether their tower would be closed. And if it is closed, of course, it would make it all that effort really moot. It might be very difficult to resume service in any meaningful way. And so I'd like to start with Mr. Best about the issue of safety at airports like that, especially Castlegar, where you're in a mountainous situation. If you had an automated tower, what are some of the issues there that would make it very difficult to service that airport?
Just waiting for the chair.
Was that for Mr. Best?
It was. Sorry,
yes, Mr. Best. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. With regards to Castlegar, that used to be an air traffic control tower. Now it's an airport advisory service. NAV Canada is on NAV Canada's list to stop providing service there. This is where flight service specialists work. They provide a weather advisory as well as they advise pilots and airport users on what's going on at a specific time. Air traffic control is a different service. We provide actual separation to all airplanes. We make the decision for the pilot, more or less, allowing them to worry about flying the airplane and not what's going on around them. With regards to how difficult that it is to fly into places like Castlegar, Whitehorse, and mountainous areas, without the services provided by certainly flight services and air traffic control, it makes it extremely difficult. I believe that Mr. Giguère, a very experienced pilot, can answer that all for himself, but it absolutely makes, safety is paramount.
Mr. Giguère?
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to move that on to Mr. Giguère to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and connectivity issues. Very clearly that a high-level review and study is required, but suffice it to say that controlled airports, like everything in aviation, are about risk management, and a controlled airport reduces risk. It makes operations more efficient, which also reduces the carbon footprint. So obviously there's a clear linkage there.
Thank you, Mr. Giguère, and thank you, Mr. Cannings.
Okay.
Well done. We're now going to move on to our second round. We have 5 minutes each for the Conservatives and the Liberal Party. We have Mr. Soroka starting off with the CPC. We have Mr. Rogers for the Liberal Party, followed by 2.5 minutes each for Mr. Barcelou-Duval and Mr. Cannings. So we'll start off with Mr. Soroka. Mr. Soroka, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to each of the presenters for coming today. And I guess my first question will go to Mr. Mueller and Mr. Giguère. I can't help but think that every time we've had someone come to our committees, they talk about the wage subsidy program as what's only really been offered to support the industry. And the question that I've got is that's almost what they're guaranteeing, is that somehow you guys would get the 75% subsidy. The industry is just going to keep going as normal. Everything's going to be fine, and they don't need to do anything more. That's kind of the impression I'm getting from all the presenters. So my question to you two is, when you've met with government and you've said that we need to have more, are they listening to you? Are they just patting you on the head and thanking you for coming today? What are they saying that they'll try to assist you in any way? Start with Mr. Mueller first.
Mr. Mueller?
Well, thanks for the question. Just on the issue of the wage subsidy, it's been an absolute lifeline for our industry. And one of the things we would be looking for on that piece moving forward is an extension beyond when they have already indicated it wrapping up for sectors like ours that are being harder hit. With respect to the broader question on sector-specific support. I believe they are listening, but now is the time for action. When you look at our competitor countries like France, just for the aerospace sector alone, $1.7 billion for innovation, green technology. And so when we look at what's going on internationally, I would agree with the other witnesses here. Now's the time to act. Now's the time for that support. The wage subsidy is barely keeping some folks afloat, and we've seen 20% layoffs across the board on the defense side. That's better, but if you look at the civil side, up to 50% layoffs. I know some of the other witnesses can talk to that too. So it is dire. We do need the support. Do I think, to your original question, do I think they're listening? They're listening, but we need some action now.
Okay.
Mr. Soroka,
Mr. Girer, would you please answer that?
Mr. Jaguar.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd support Mr. Miller's view that the time for action is now. While the CEWS program is of some assistance, it's for those employees that are still employed. In Air Canada's case, our particular group have a significant number laid off, and as well in the larger company, 20,000 laid off. So clearly the aviation sector needs assistance. Other G7 countries have given terrific assistance to their airlines. There's none yet from Canada. We're hopeful. It's important because without it, Air Canada and airlines in Canada will be disadvantaged as to how they operate in the future against other carriers.
Thank you for that. Mr. Best, you painted such a wonderful picture there with the air traffic controllers and the safety in that. I guess I'm very concerned now about, right now there's not as many flights coming into a lot of the airports there, but the point is, in the future, where is our safety going to be if we don't have that staff anymore? How are we ever going to be able to get our industry back if there isn't these assistance right now?
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it's quite obvious why I'm here today. We have a goal, and it's a requirement for Canada to retain the world-class expertise we have. We can't allow for short-sighted decisions with regards to laying off air traffic controllers. As safety, again, is paramount, it will be affected. And without us, believe me, with our staff shortages, economic recovery will be very, very, very slow.
Yes, Mr. Best, again, that's the point that concerns me, is the fact that they are being laid off. Are they then just going to another industry or another country? Which would they still stay in Canada, or are they just going to move to a different country where there is better quality air service?
Again, Mr. Chair, good question. With regards to air traffic controllers, I can tell you that with the ones that have been served notice already, I've already got several examples of them looking for employment elsewhere around the world. We're very highly skilled. We're in demand. And there's a staff shortage around the world, and there has been now for at least a decade, if not more. So there will be brain drain with regards to us losing the skills.
Thank you, Mr. Best, and thank you, Mr. Soroka. We're now going to move on to the next speaker. We have Mr. Rogers for the Liberal Party for 5 minutes. Mr. Rogers, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to all of the witnesses today who are here outlining the many challenges that they're facing, of course, for their organization and their membership and their employees. I particularly want to speak to the Atlantic Canadian Airports Association, of course, Mr. Sanford and Ms. Pacha. I find myself in a very conflicted position because back here in Newfoundland and Labrador in Atlantic Canada, many people are, of the view that we should continue to be very restrictive of allowing travel. People often complain about the only cases we see arising in Newfoundland and Labrador are from people that are traveling. As you know, of course, the Atlantic bubble has been there, and it's placed many restrictions around travel throughout Atlantic Canada, and I'm sure in some other parts of rural Canada. So, the loss of regional routes, impact on airports like Gander, Nav Canada, which next door to me, an hour's drive away. This has been very stressful. It's distressing, actually. So, despite the measures we've announced as a government, we're still finding ourselves in a very difficult position. And like you, I want to see a resolution as quickly as possible. But I just want to give you an opportunity, both of you, to comment on the Atlantic bubble and whether or not that's been the real reason for the successful health perspective, I guess, that we see here in Atlantic Canada, very few cases.
I can take it. It's Derek Stanford. I mean, it's the Atlantic bubble served its purpose at the beginning of the pandemic when there were a lot of unknowns. And what we'd be looking for now is the blending of science with precautions. We too, like you, don't want to do anything that's dangerous. But as our industry falls further and further idle, the ability to restart from a standing still makes it more and more difficult all the time. And the notion of being able to have this size of infrastructure just remain on standby indefinitely becomes less and less of a reasonable approach to this.
I so appreciate that answer, Mr. Stanford, and I'll give Ms. Pasha an opportunity to comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not an Atlantic Canadian that wouldn't be pleased for the safety precautions that were taken. We're 10 months in and we have more tools in the toolbox. And I think, we've seen Nova Scotia expand on a rapid testing strategy here. And I think we need to find new ways to test and trace and repeat and do that again and again and find safe ways to restart this sector. We need to plan for months from now to find ways to get us back up in the air. I mean, we can't just turn on a dime and flick a switch and all of our routes are going to come back. So I think it's more about planning for the future and finding new ways to move forward. And that's what we're asking of our provincial governments as well, and asking the federal government to support us while we get through this time of no business.
Yeah, and I so appreciate both of your answers on that front. And I can assure you that, we are extremely concerned as Atlantic Canadian MPs when we see all of these regional routes disappearing and the airports, the challenges they're facing, like Gander and Labrador and Deer Lake and on and on. So I really appreciate you being here today and giving me that perspective and sharing that with the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any more questions?
No, I'm good with that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, well, you do have a minute left. Maybe I'll go back to Ms. Jacek and see if Ms. Jacek wants to finish up her questioning with Mr. Giguère. I know he got cut off. Ms. Jacek never got a question answered. So Ms. Jacek, you have the floor for about 40 seconds.
Well, thank you, Chair. So, Mr. Giguère, hopefully you're connected now. I was asking about the changes that have been proposed by NAV Canada in terms of service levels, the issue that Mr. Best raised. And I was just wondering, from the perspective of pilots, obviously air traffic control is vital to your safe flying. Have you heard of any concerns in this regard, or are you confident that Transport Canada is going to manage the situation?
Mr. Giguère.
Thank you. Obviously, Transport Canada have oversight on this issue, but as I've said before, the ability to have a well-trained controller providing air traffic separation and control into an airport reduces the risk overall, and it increases the efficiency of the operation, as well as reducing the carbon footprint. So, needless to say, our crews don't operate if it's not deemed safe, but it does take other procedures and delays and so on that impact the operation. So ideally, having controllers at our airports is obviously the right answer in the best risk management possible.
Thank you, Mr. Giguère. Thank you, Ms. Jacek, and thank you, Mr. Rogers. As always, Mr. Rogers, it was nice to be part of your neighborhood. Anybody remember that?
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Bloc Québécois. For 2.5 minutes. Mr. Barcelona de Val, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for Mr. Ferguson. In your remarks, you mentioned the fact that there are planes, especially for Air Canada, that are maintained abroad or that are parked in the desert and abroad as well. I don't know if you mentioned it, but I also heard from workers that wanted to change airplanes into cargo planes, but the contracts were not in Canada. There's also the issue with the emergency wage subsidy that wasn't used to maintain employees in their jobs. Is that your point of view as well? Do you think that these elements should be taken into consideration before helping an airline like Air Canada? Because in the end, our objective is to get people to work here.
Yes, I would certainly agree with you that our aim is also to, if there's work that should be done in Canada, our workers are skilled and able to do that work. It's our understanding earlier that there's quite a few planes that were overseas, that were parked. Now some of them required basic maintenance, etc., while they were parked. But any of the maintenance required to put the planes back into active service, we feel that that should be done here in Canada. Our members, we have the skills. Right now, for example, there in our technical operations, there's approximately 1,200 laid off. These are members who with skills. Where are they going to find a job right now that fits their skill set? We feel that the opportunity is there to service these planes, to do the maintenance for these planes in Canada, and we really feel that before Air Canada is part of any subsidy, any plan, that those planes or any work that can be done here by our members should be done.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. I guess I don't have a lot of time. So to continue, I'd like to ask you if, in your point of view, a change to the Air Canada Act has opened the door to this kind of practices?
Mr. Ferguson?
Well, several years ago, there was the Air Canada Participation Act, which allowed some of that heavy maintenance to be moved offshore. So that would be something that would have to be addressed through government.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson, and thank you, Mr. Barcelona de Val. We're now going to move on to Mr. Cannings. Mr. Cannings, for 2.5 minutes, you have the floor.
Thank you, and I'd like to stay with Mr. Ferguson. We've been hearing a lot about the wage subsidy, which has been extensively used by the industry. It's really the main support that the industry, I guess, has had access to. And I just wondered if you'd like to comment on how your members have been affected by that, whether it was used as it was meant to be used to keep people working so that they would continue to have their jobs and their benefits, etc. How it might have interacted with EI in those situations. Just if you just comments on how you feel the wage subsidy worked and whether you would design it another way if you had the opportunity.
Mr. Ferguson?
And as I stated earlier in the beginning, the wage subsidy program was beneficial to the members. But as time went on, most of the companies, for example, they did not provide the 25% top up, and they only had the active workers on the queues. So in our estimation, it it didn't fulfill what the government's plan was at the time to keep workers on the payroll and keep those employees active. So I guess, and after June, when there was changes to it, it seemed to become somewhat of cost inhibitive to employers, and most employers did not renew their CEWS program.
Mr. Cannings?
Okay, I'll just, in the interest of time, I'll just stay with you, Mr. Ferguson, and ask you about the proposed sector-based benefits that are hopefully being negotiated. And just again, if you have any further thoughts on what sort of strings you might attach to those that support in the interests of your members.
Mr. Ferguson?
Also, as I've stated earlier there, that this should be worker-centric, and money should not be going to the corporations, for executive payments, etc., etc. And the interest here is to keep people working, get people back to work. And if I could just touch on the area you spoke earlier there about the regional, we really feel that the regional networks need to be sustained in preparation for a recovery.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Thank you, Mr. Cannings. We're now going to move on to the CPC. Mr. Cram, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for tuning in today. I would like to ask some questions of Mr. Best of the Air Traffic Controllers Association. As you mentioned in your opening statement, NAV Canada is currently studying the closure of 7 air traffic control towers across Canada and laying off the air traffic controllers. First off, can you give the committee an idea of what an air traffic controller actually does on a day-to-day basis to keep our skies safe?
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I can liken it to a police officer at an intersection where there's no red light or the lights are out. And what that officer does is it just directs traffic around to make sure that everything flows in a reasonable and a very safe manner. If you look at air traffic controllers, that's exactly what we do at a much higher level, because airplanes, they can't stop in midair. So everything is very fluid, but that's literally what we do. We're constantly moving airplanes around, making sure that they get from gate to gate safely every time.
Mr. Cram?
Very good. And it's been said a few times at this committee that restarting the air travel sector after the pandemic will not be like flipping on a light switch. If NAV Canada were to shut down these air traffic control towers and lay off the air traffic controllers, can you give the committee an idea of some of the challenges that NAV Canada would face and some of the impacts to the air traveling public if we then had to reopen all these air traffic control towers and rehire all of the staff after the pandemic is over?
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully they'll still be around if they are laid off, because if they're not and they're scooped up by many other air navigation service providers around the world, if not, like I said before, all with the exception of a handful were terminated in September. But with regards to our staffing prior to COVID, so if you go back to March the 12th, that's a day that we like to use. We're about a little bit more than 13% short-staffed. The previous year, NAV Canada spent $100 million on overtime. And with all the retirement incentives that have now been given and the potential layoffs, we could be more than 20% short. If the expectation for the airlines and the services to come back, and that's everybody on this call, if the expectation is for us to be there without any delays, as we have been in the past, or for the most part without delays, it is just not going to be there. It will take years to recover.
Mr. Cram?
I see. On Tuesday, the committee heard testimony from representatives of the IBEW and PIPSC, the two of the other unions represented who represent workers at NAV Canada. And those two unions are proposing a $750 million subsidy to NAV Canada contingent on a moratorium on layoffs. Does the Air Traffic Controllers Association share the position of the other two unions?
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 100%. As I said in my opening statement, that we are hopeful that the government will come through with a grant to help NAV Canada be able to not lay off any employees at all, so that we'll be there when the time is right.
Mr. Cram.
And have you been able to meet with the transport minister, either the recently sworn in minister or the previous minister, to present your plans for NAV Canada?
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have. We have met with, we did meet with Minister Garneau. It was in a community based through Unifor and Jerry Diaz. Since the new Minister of Transport has taken over, we have not.
Mr. Cram.
And can you tell the committee what the previous transport minister said when you presented your plans?
Mr. Best.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you, and we'll get back to you.
Mr. Cram.
And has the minister gotten back to you?
Mr. Best.
Mr. Chair, the minister, through some of his aides, did respond to some of our concerns. We did have subsequent meetings. However, there's been obviously no resolution to date.
Mr. Cram, quick one.
All right, and Mr. Best, do you know why that is?
Mr. Best.
Mr. Chair, honestly, I do not know. We have spoken with others in government, out of the Prime Minister's office, as well as several other MPs. I believe Mr. Biddle may have been one of them at one point in time. But as I said, to date, there's been no resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Thank you, Mr. Cram. We'll now move on to the Liberal Party of Canada. Mr. Sidhu, for 5 minutes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all our witnesses for being with us today. Mr. Bruno, you had mentioned in your opening statements you partner with the government, UBC, and other partners for pilot projects. Can you please elaborate more on the experience regarding these pilot projects?
Excuse me. Yes, through the chair, our experience with the trial that we did showed there hadn't been a lot of traffic, for one thing. So,
Mr. Bruno, can you bring your mic down a bit, please? That's good. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The trial has been with a few hundred passengers on a volunteer basis, and what they have shown so far, everyone that has gone through that process is tested negative. And we have not only tested using the antigen test to get the passengers through quickly, as a backup, we all actually took those samples, put them through the more rigorous PCR test.
Mr. Sidhu.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bruno. Mr. Jaguar, in your opening statement, you mentioned cargo holds being full. However, passenger traffic is down on those same aircrafts, which I think is a very important point because as the government looks at further restrictions to protect all Canadians against new variants, we also cannot forget about the critical cargo that comes in through our airports. I've had many conversations with constituents in regards to aircrafts and flights, and many did not know the full extent of how much cargo such as PPE, vaccines, and other critical supplies arrive in Canada on passenger aircraft. Mr. Jaguar, as public health needs change and the threat of new variants arise, do you see the need for government to introduce even stricter travel restrictions?
Mr. Jaguar.
I think the key to this is to work with science. Obviously, everyone in Canada wants to make sure our country is safe and that we don't introduce something that we can't control from a public health perspective. At the same time, the aviation infrastructure in Canada is like our electrical grid, like our highway network, and we can't let it falter in the long run. At the beginning of the pandemic, we operated aircraft all around the world to pick up PPE. Those aircraft continue to fly, but as the route schedules and network shrinks, the capability of moving necessary cargo in Canada and from outside Canada in and out as a trading nation will be diminished. So the actual overall network is significant, and we must be very thoughtful of that. Anything we do, that we don't inadvertently damage that network.
Mr. Sadhu.
Thank you for that, Mr. Jagier. Mr. Ferguson, you mentioned health and safety is at the forefront of members and the public in your statement as well. You also mentioned that roughly 22,000 of your members work in the aviation and transport sector. My question to you is very similar to Mr. Jagier's question. I'll repeat the question in case you missed it. As public health needs change and new variants appear, do you see the need for government to introduce even stricter travel restrictions?
Mr. Jagier?
No, that was to Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ferguson.
Yes. So we also feel like, you know, the science and the public health authorities, et cetera, that all these actions have to be followed, because we are all on the side of worker health and safety, but also the health and safety of the traveling public. So we wouldn't want to be part of anything that that harmed the health and safety of the public or our members.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Mr. Sadhu?
Yes, Mr. Chair, my last question, I know I'm running out of time. It's a similar question to Mr. Bruno. I'd like to hear your thoughts on further restrictions to international travel. I know various airports have different opinions on this, so I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Mr. Bruno?
Sure. Well, I think we're all very cognizant of the impact of the variant right now. The measures that the government is necessary for a short period of time to settle things down. After that, we need to have a plan. Travel legally again.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Thank you, Mr. Sidhu. We're now going to move on for our third round. We have up for 5 minutes, Mr. Shipley, followed by Mr. Alkuri. And for 2.5 minutes, we have Mr. Barcelou-Duval, followed by Mr. Cannings. So we'll start off with Mr. Shipley. Mr. Shipley, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. My first line of questioning is going to be predominantly for Mr. Jagier. So thank you, Mr. Jagier. You know, we're talking a lot about airlines and airplanes, and that's all the metal and the engines and that type of stuff. I'd like to talk about the human toll on this. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day, which means we're talking about some mental health issues. I reviewed a stack of letters. I didn't read every single one, I'm not going to say I did, but we got a large pile of them, mainly from pilots, not all from your line, but many different lines in Canada. And they were heartbreaking, quite frankly. Devastating letters. I can only imagine what some of your employees are going through. So I want to know how your employees are dealing these days with their mental health, and is there programs being offered for them right now to deal with this?
First off, thank you for the question, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have, in our case, 600 members who are laid off, many other members who are inactive, and of course our large contingent which are not working nearly as hard as they can, and they see not just their profession but their avocation slipping away without any support. It's vitally important that we work together to solve the problem of the transportation industry and this vital network. In terms of the health of our folks,
Mr. Chair, could we maybe just wait one moment, because I'm not getting his answer. I think this is important.
Yes, Mr. Jagier, you're cutting in and out.
Place to do that, and
Mr. Jagier, you're cutting in and out.
particularly sensitive to our
Okay, Mr. Jagger, I'm gonna, Mr. Jagger, you're cutting in and out. You might want to pop off and pop back on again.
Lost their.
And I'm going to go back to Mr. Shipley. Mr. Shipley, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I hope we can get time to go back to hear that answer because I think, Mr. Chair, that was one of the most important answers I think we can get today. But he always popped back on.
He's popped back on here.
Mr. You go ahead, Chair, if you want to.
Mr.
Go over that again.
Yeah, Mr. Jagger, can you pop your mic back on again?
Yep.
There you go. I think we got you back. Okay, if Mr. Shipley, if you don't mind, we'll go back to Mr. Jagger. And Mr. Jagger, if you can start from the top and give your answer because you were cutting in and out.
I'm sorry. Thank you for the opportunity. So, we have a significant number of our members laid off. For pilots, it's more than just a job. It's a profession. It's an avocation. To have that taken away from you when you have a career in front of you with a tremendous opportunity. The network that our airline flies is remarkable. The connectivity that a small country like Canada provides, the recognition that the airline industry, the aviation industry, the air sector in Canada has recognized worldwide safety standards, technical expertise, and customer service. And this is what we are all passionate about, and we need to make sure that we protect that and take care of it so that on the other side of this pandemic, we can take our rightful place at the top of the industry and not be disadvantaged against others who have been in a position where they've kept their industry going. In terms of the health of our members, we're very sensitive to it. We watch it carefully. Of course, we feel every day for those of our members who are on furlough, and of course those who are waiting to see what the next corner takes for the airline industry. We're anxious and hopeful that the government will make a move and put the aid forward that we've heard about for some time.
Thank you, Mr. Jagger. And Mr. Shipley, just an FYI, for that answer, I stopped the time. So I didn't take the time off twice for two answers. So I'm going to start the time back up for you right now. Mr. Shipley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was very fair. And thank you for that answer, Mr. Jagger. As I said, we can talk about all the things, but really it comes down to people are the important thing here. We want to make sure they're looked after. So thank you for that. And you can tell your members that we're fighting for them and hopefully they'll get through this. We'll all get through it together. I know everybody's kind of getting tired of hearing that. That's just not lip service. We mean that. So if you pass that message along. I do want to talk a little bit more about your employees too, because their training, it's been touched on a little bit today. Do pilots not have to fly a certain number of hours a year to keep their, I don't want to use the word license, but their certification or whatever it is up? And how are they maintaining that if they're not working?
Yes, they do. And there are requirements that are stated by Transport Canada and enabled through our various training programs. With the reduced flying, we have many pilots that have been put on essentially idle. So although we have the 600 furloughed, we have others that have not flown in some time and are waiting for an opportunity. Of course, they don't fly until they're fully trained and fully qualified, which requires a retraining program, back to simulator, back to line indoctrination with a training and check captain, and then put back into service. So this is why we talk about keeping the industry alive, to make sure that those highly skilled individuals maintain their skills, keep their skills, so that when this pandemic is over, Canada can be proud of its aviation sector, and that we can take our rightful place in the world as we have in past, and connect the world to Canada and Canada to the world, as well as all of the regional airports in Canada which feed into those international networks. They're all vitally important. And you've seen me having trouble today with connectivity. That's what the airline is about. It's about connectivity. It's connecting people together, people to industry, people to families, people to their neighborhoods, people to their loved ones around the world, connecting communities and cultures together.
Thank you, Mr. Jagger. Thank you, Mr. Shipley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We're now going to move on to Mr. Alkuri of the Liberal Party. Mr. Alkuri, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Bienvenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome to our guests.
Elizabeth May, my dear friend. Welcome, Elizabeth. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais mentionner.
Before we start, I'd like to mention one thing. Yesterday, I watched an interview with Mr. Miller, and I was highly impressed, and I was very pleased to see something, for example, that we are here in Canada, and we have the aerospace industry, which is number 5 in the world, And in addition to that, the macroeconomic stability, we're number one in that regard. And also, we are pioneers in preferential access to the market. So there are many aspects. And if we take all of that together, I think it gives us much hope to work to change, improve, and promote our marvelous investment. So my first question is for Mr. Miller, if you will. Do you think that financial assistance to airlines ought to be conditional on their complying with their contracts with your members?
I think anything that supports, oh, sorry, I'm having a bit of feedback here. Anything that supports our members is a good thing. And as we've talked about before, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, support for the airlines is also critical because at the end of the day, it's the airlines, at least on the civil side, buy the planes that we produce, repair the planes that they fly, and make the parts that go into them. So it's critically important. The thing that you'd spoken about, the global interconnectivity and the global supply chains is absolutely key to support those supply chains, support the industry in Canada, whichever a different platform that they are on. Anything that goes to support that, I think would be well received.
Mr. Alkiri?
Very good, thank you. Deuxième question, s'il vous plaît.
Second question now. Have your member received the federal wage subsidy, and what has the impact been to keep your employees?
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the wage subsidy is critically important for our industry. It has been beneficial to keep employees, but it's been a lifeline. But in order, as I've talked about before, to really position the aerospace industry, number one, we need to have the airlines flying again, and two, the support that's being given by other countries to their domestic industry is really going to position Canada. You talked about global competitiveness. We need to be globally competitive. We need to be there, and we need the support of government in order to compete internationally. I often say, the forestry sector, you can't move a forest out of Canada, at least not easily. But the aerospace sector, once those work packages leave Canada, they aren't coming back. And as we've talked about amongst all the different witnesses here, at the end of the day, the aerospace industry isn't this, magical thing. It's the people working in it, and how do we support the people working in it to ensure that we have the cutting edge technology to ensure that when the recovery comes, the Canadian industry is well positioned to take advantage of that and also contribute to the recovery.
Mr. Alkiri?
Very good, thanks. Ma troisième question.
My third question is, do you believe that there is a need for the government to react rapidly when the public health needs evolve? For example, like the appearance of a new variant.
Well, absolutely. I think everyone would agree the decisions need to be based on science. That being said, a strong aerospace industry in Canada contributes not only to the search and rescue helicopters that are flying, the military operations that are going on, and we need to make sure that we pay attention to it. And the other thing I would just mention is I think that there's a safe way to go about it. As we've seen multiple studies internationally, that aerospace and airline travel is a safe mode of transportation if the correct precautions and measures are in place, which of course we would be the first priority of our industry is of course the health and safety of Canadians.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Thank you, Mr. Alkiri. We're now going to move on to the Bloc Québécois for 2.5 minutes. Mr. Barcelot-Duval, the floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question will be for Ms. Pachard and Mr. Stanford from the Atlantic Canada. Now, in Quebec, we have an important issue regarding regional air traffic
ensuring a regional coverage. And I think that's probably quite similar to the problems that you have in Atlantic Canada, meaning the eastern part of Quebec. Now, amongst the concerns that have been raised also in the eastern part of Quebec is that the support that that government policies, once there will be the recovery, and ensuring first that there will be these regional connections, but also that there might be competition, because very often there is a monopoly from Air Canada, and other smaller carriers could also offer something interesting. Is that a concern that you have in the Atlantic region?
Stanford?
I can take it. It's Derek Stanford. If I understand the question, you're worried if there is the ability to have regional air carriers, as well as what the competitive landscape would look like.
Yes, what I would like to know is that whether for you it's also important that the government support to the be fair, and also help there be some competition that would allow the smaller air carriers to be able to offer a reasonable service that wouldn't be crushed by the big companies like Air Canada, for example.
Okay, well, probably the first challenge we'd have is to have any air carriers. So we're currently without service to a lot of our stations in Atlantic Canada. So I'd love to be able to imagine a situation where we had competition, but first I need some service. So and the federal government did announce a plan called the Regional Air Transportation Initiative, which we are working with our Economic Development Agency in Atlantic Canada, which is ACOA. And we are exploring different kinds of options. Again, due to provincial restrictions, it's actually even difficult to travel intra-Atlantic Canada at this time as well. And as an example, if I was to go to Nova Scotia, I would be required to quarantine for 2 weeks when I get back to New Brunswick. So we're going to explore these ideas, and we are looking at it. But right now, because of the pandemic, we don't have a lot of options with regards to potential carriers.
Ms. Pasher?
Sure. I think, we have a strong regional carrier in our region, PAL Airlines, and they've actually been growing throughout the pandemic. So we're pleased to have that partner. But our big issue is really connecting our region to the rest of Canada and internationally and globally when we do recover. And we didn't really have the problem of no competition here. A lot of our routes, we had Air Canada, we had WestJet, we had Porter. So we did have good competition and fares in our region. I think we took a decade to build up that network. And I think our concern in this region moving forward is really to see our connectivity to the rest of Canada be rebuilt, and working with our national carriers to do that, and still supporting our regional carrier as well. We only have...
Thank you.
We're now going to move on to Mr. Cannings for 2.5 minutes of the NDP. Mr. Cannings, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to go back, I think, to Mr. Best to talk about NAVCAN and that issue where NAVCAN, it's basically, as I understand it, funded by the amount of traffic at any given airport. So it's been suffering, as everyone in the industry has been in the last year. And it seems to have a mandate for safety, but it obviously doesn't have a mandate for, for regional services and maintaining the industry. So I'm kind of wondering, do we need a new funding model for NAVCAN, or a new oversight model that gives the government some real say in ensuring that NAVCAN remains operating in these airports so that we can recover quickly in situations like this?
Who are you directing that question to, Mr. Cannings?
I was saying Mr. Best.
Mr. Best? Mr. Best, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, NAV Canada is a cost recovery business. Is there some sort of change to the act? Probably. It's our idea that somewhere down the road something has to happen. NAV Canada doesn't really have the ability right now to save very much money. They've got a rate stabilization fund. They've got probably about the use of about $200 million. But other than that, cost recovery is pretty simple. You only have to take in as much as what you need. And so should it be reviewed? Yes, it should be. It has been since 1996, so we're talking about 25 years since NAV Canada came to life. But the issue is right now is the fact that yes, the executives are considering, or they're taking into consideration finances before safety, and that's why we're here.
Mr. Cannings.
Well, maybe I'll just pass that on to Mr. Giguère as well. And my colleague, Brian Massey, the MP for Windsor West, he's investigating new legislation that would give the Minister of Transport the ability to kind of veto any NAVCAN decisions about closing operations so that we can save these regional services. I'm just wondering if he might want to comment on that.
Mr. Giguère.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Sure. You know, at the root of all this is the lack of flights. The solution is to get the industry moving again, to support the industry, and it'll return. Get that connectivity, as we've heard from our colleagues in Atlantic Canada. You know, whether someone's coming from Asia into Canada to go to Anne of Green Gables House, or coming in to go to our great national park in Banff, connectivity to the world and connectivity across Canada is what will drive traffic, and what will drive traffic will give the revenue and the traffic over to air traffic controls. I've said before and earlier, you know, air traffic controllers assist in a meaningful way, not insignificant at all. Having them at their airports reduces risk. The more traffic there is, the more conflict there can be, but the core issue is to get the airline industry stabilized, to make sure we have a healthy industry on the other side of this pandemic that can take its place in the world and in Canada, make sure that we service all those regional airports with lots of connectivity, all the northern airports, all our First Nations communities. The entire industry needs some assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Giguère, and thank you, Mr. Cannings. For our last speaker today, and once again, I want to welcome Ms. May to the committee and around the table. Ms. May, you have the floor for the last 5 minutes of the meeting.
Thank you very, very much. And I again thank Parliamentary Secretary Biddle for this opportunity. I would want to ask you all questions. I have to confess I am bi-coastal. I am from Cape Breton Island originally, and now I live on Vancouver Island. And as much as I love Cape Breton, I don't want to ever live anywhere but Vancouver Island. But back to Richard Cannings having a relationship to J. McCurdy. The Silver Dart took off in front of our former home in Baddeck, off Baddeck Bay. So I feel very, very close to all of Miss Pasher's regions. And talk about connectivity from Cape Breton to Halifax, we used to have Via Rail, and then we had the bus lines. Both of them are gone, so people were really dependent on the Sydney Airport. But I want to focus my questions, if I can, on the questions to Mr. Best about air traffic control. I have some stressed out constituents who are on stress leave from being at NAVCAN, being air traffic controllers. And my impression is that it's not new that NAVCAN puts finances ahead of safety. I don't want to be too blunt, but the constituents with whom I've spoken have relayed, and I was alarmed to hear it, that the elimination of the supervisor position in air traffic control towers across Canada might have had an effect on safety. This is years before COVID. And I wanted to get a comment from Mr. Best before I ask my next question. Am I recalling this correctly, that we lost the whole category of supervisors of air traffic control towers?
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, from time to time, obviously, NAV Canada does make some decisions that are financially based. Obviously, they do their own risk analysis with regards to the safety management system. That's an internal system that's overseen by people at Transport Canada. But yes, I'm sure that if you're coming from Miss May from Vancouver Island, that you're probably talking about Victoria. It did happen in Victoria where they did lose their supervisors. Did it have an effect? Absolutely, it does. Anytime that there's any sort of job loss like this, it does, and it does affect safety.
Ms. May.
I had been raising with the Transport Committee over the years, and I've asked Mr. Best if he thinks it's still worth investigating. If it's worth going back over the Transportation Safety Board report on the that was from 2018. I think it was a 2017 mid-air collision that happened in St. Foy or over St. Bruno, Quebec. I wonder, Mr. Best, if you still think, if you would think it was worth looking into that further to see if air traffic control had any impact on that mid-air collision.
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Difficult to comment on a transportation safety board brief that was that did come, especially over the mid-air. I mean, it's always very sensitive to us. I mean, I can certainly talk about other mid-airs, such as down in Windsor. That's why they still have a tower down there, because of the airspace that they work. It's very, very difficult to work right beside Detroit. You know, obviously, we did have some sort of an impact, but we would have had a bigger impact had our control service been was able to reach out a little bit further than what it does now.
Ms. May?
I think to focus on COVID and the decline in revenue to NAVCAN leading to cutbacks, I think a lot of Canadians would be surprised to realize that regulation of something as significant as air traffic control relies on an agency that was privatized in 1996, although a nonprofit private agency, requires having a revenue flow from the traveling public. And I wanted to ask Mr. Best, would this be an occasion where we should review, and this is closer to what Mr. Cannings was asking, but should we review fundamentally the model of a privatized arm's length body for our safety and I am, of course, a frequent flyer, as all MPs are. Is this a model that we should reconsider?
Mr. Best?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that there needs to be some sort of a reconciliation of some of the issues that are currently going on at NAV Canada, of course. You know, so to be very blunt, like you were with regards to the question, I would say yes.
Ms. May?
Thank you. I just want to also turn to our representatives of, well, certainly I sometimes feel as though I live at YVR, but just to express.
Ms. May, you froze up. Give her a second. Ms. May has frozen. We'll give you a second, Elizabeth. Okay, so Ms. May has frozen up, and she pretty well did that right on time. It's 5:30. So we will conclude our meeting. To all of you on the committee, as well as Ms. May as our guest, I thank you for the questions that you asked our witnesses, and to the witnesses, more importantly, thank you for your time today. It was very kind of you to come out and give us a lot of the input for this study. It's very valuable. And with that, we're hoping that it's reflected within the analyst report back to committee. We're expecting it to be reflected within the analyst report that comes back to committee. And for that reason, once again, I thank you very much for your time today. To all members, once again, thank you, and we'll see you on Tuesday. This meeting is adjourned.